6. Sadhu Vrtti, adopting the virtuous conduct of pure devotees. Sadhus are of two types, grasthas, householders, and Grihtyagis, renunciants. Hence, their vritti is also of two types, that of a householder Vaishnava and that of a renunciate Vaishnava. We will individually examine these two types of vrittis. In addition to these two, there are some modes of conduct that are beneficial for both types of sadhus. This will be described separately. The word vritti has two meanings, propensity, pravritti, and lifestyle, jivan. The word pravritti refers to one's individual nature or character. The dharma of the living entity corresponds to one's pravritti or propensity, which arises from one's own nature. In other words, dharma is not determined by birth. Veda drigabhi smrito rajan pretyache sharma krita. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.11.31. O King, Brahmins who are well versed in the Vedas recognize that in each age, the dharma prescribed in accordance with one's nature is auspicious, both in life and death. In the various yugas, sages who are fully conversant with the Vedas have generally systemized dharma according to people's nature. This dharma is auspicious for all persons in both this world and the next. Those who take shelter of their natural tendency, vritti, and follow their own individual duty, swadharma, attain in due course of time devotion to Shri Krishna that is free from the modes of material nature, after transcending their karma according to their acquired nature. Otherwise, if they deviate from their individual duty, they will not be able to make continual advancement. This is the teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam 7.11.32. Vrittaya swabhav krittaya vartmanam swakarma krita hitva swabhav jam karma shaner nirgunatvam eyat. A person who maintains his occupational duty, swadharma, by taking shelter of his innate propensity, will gradually become detached from these activities and situated beyond the material modes. The word nirgunata in the above verse indicates bhakti in accordance with the general use of the word nirguna in Srimad Bhagavatam. Tasma deham imam ladva jnana vijnanam sambhavam guna sangam vinirduya mam bhajantu vichikshana. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.25.33. Therefore, having taken birth in the human species, those who possess intelligence should completely rid themselves of all association with the modes of material nature and perform bhajan of me. The verse Nirgunam Madapashraya, spoken by Shri Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.25.26, establish that whatever act is performed with bhakti is called nirguna or transcendental to the modes of material nature. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.25.34 and 35 states, Rajas tamas chabijayet sattva samsevya munihi sattvam chabijayet yukto nirapekshana shantidhi. By engaging himself in only the modes of goodness, he shall obtain victory over the modes of passion and ignorance. Then, that wise sage, being established in the performance of bhakti, shall obtain victory over even the modes of goodness by neglecting all the modes. The means to attain the stage of nirguna. The four varnas, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, and the four ashrams, Brahmacharya, Grasth, Vanprasth and Sannyas, exist in accordance with the above 30 characteristics as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.18.42. Bhikshur dharma shamo ahimsa tapa iksha vanokusa grino bhut raksejaya dvija acharya sevanam. Tranquility, that is the control of the mind, and non-violence are the dharma of a sannyasi. Austerity and spiritual understanding are the duties of a vanprastha. Giving protection to all living entities and performing sacrificial worship, yajna, are the duties of a grastha, and serving one's guru is the duty of a brahmachari. The respective dharmas pertaining to the individual varnas are as follows. The dharmas of the Brahmins are studying, teaching, performing yajnas, having others perform yajnas, giving in charity, and accepting charity. The functions of the Kshatriyas are maintaining one's life through protecting the citizens by avoiding punishment, taxation, etc. The functions of the Vaishyas are farming, rearing cows, engaging in business, etc. And the sole occupation of the Shudra is serving the Brahmins. The livelihood of those of mixed caste is the current occupation by which their family members maintain themselves. The regulation to make the mind and body favorable for bhajan. The conclusion of all these principles of Srimad Bhagavatam is that Hari Bhajan is the only objective for the people of this world. However, it is impossible to engage in bhajan until the gross and subtle bodies have been made favorable for that. Therefore, the foremost duty of human beings is to make these two external bodies favorable for bhajan. To maintain the gross body, it is necessary to accumulate such things as a house, grains, water, and so on. For the subtle body to prosper, true knowledge, Sadhu Vidya, and a righteous mode of conduct, Sadhu Vrtti, are needed. For this reason, it is necessary to adopt a means by which these two necessities can be procured and our Bhagavad Bhajan can continue. After the gross and subtle bodies are made completely favorable for bhakti and are brought to the stage of nirguna, that is, the state in which they are free from the modes of material nature, this task of Bhagavad Bhajan becomes simple. But how can we bring people to this stage? There is one solution. Whatever nature and desire arise in living entities as a result of their reaping the fruits of their activities since time immemorial are a mixture of the three modes of material nature: goodness, sattva, passion, raja, and ignorance, tama. It is necessary that one first increase goodness, and by that subdue passion and ignorance, making goodness the most prominent quality. At that time, one will be led by the mode of goodness, sattva guna. When sattva is completely under the control of bhakti, it becomes transcendental to the modes, nirguna. In other words, when sattva guna is endowed with bhakti, it is called nirguna. By adopting this process, one's body and mind will gradually become favorable for Bhagavad Bhajan. The necessity of Varna Ashram Dharma. As long as a person still has the quality and faults of his nature, his primary duty is to observe Varnashram Dharma. The main purpose of Varnashram Dharma is to make those who follow it gradually attain the stage of Nirguna and thus become qualified for Bhagavad Bhajan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted the following verses from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.2 and 3 to Srila Sanatan Goswami. Mukh baharu padebhya purusha syasamashme saha chatvaro jigyere varna gunar vipradaya prithak ya esham purusham sakshad atma prabhav vishwaram na bhajante vajananti sthanad bhrashta patantadha. Sri Chamas said, the Brahmins came into the existence from the face of the primordial Shri Vishnu, the Kshatriyas from his arms, the Vaishyas from his thighs, and the Shudras from his feet. These four Varnas were born along with their particular characteristics, as were the four specific ashrams. A person living among these Varnas and ashrams may become intoxicated by his high social position, varna, and spiritual position, ashrama, and fails to worship his worshipful deity, Bhagwan Shri Vishnu, or even disrespects him. Such a person falls down from his position in the system of varna and ashram, loses all his prestige, and takes birth in the lower species. The purpose of varna, occupational division, and ashram stage of life is for a person to gradually develop and finally come to the point of performing Bhagavad Bhajan. If even after observing Varnashram Dharma properly, one does not develop a taste for Bhagavad Bhajan, this leads to fall down from Varnashram Dharma. Srila Ramanand Rai cited the following verse to Mahaprabhu regarding the goal, sadhe, and the means to attain it, sadhan. Varnashram achre vata purushena para puman Vishnu aradyate pantha nanya tat tosha karanam. Vishnu Puran 3.8.9. Shri Vishnu is worshipped only by carrying out one's prescribed duties in Varnashrama. There is no other way to please him. In response, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu designated this an external injunction and instructed Srila Rai Ramanand to speak a principle higher than this. He is thus insinuating that Varnashram Dharma is necessary only to regulate the gross and subtle bodies. If a person remains satisfied with the regulation of Varnashram Dharma and does not engage in Bhagavad Bhajan, then his observance of Varnashram Dharma is useless. Therefore, although for the conditioned souls, the process of Varnashrama is favorable for bhajan to a certain extent, still it is an external sadhan. It is not the highest and most beneficial sadhan. Dharma swanashrita pumsam vikshak senu kathasuya nautpad yadi ratim shram eva hi kevalam. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.8. If, even after executing Varnashram Dharma precisely, a human being does not develop a taste in his heart for hearing and chanting the glories of Shri Bhagavan and Srimad Bhagavatam, his endeavors has been useless labor. Varnashram is to be followed until the body is given up. From this, one should not conclude that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has ordered us to abandon Varnashram Dharma. Had this been the case, then during his time as a householder, he would not have instructed the living entities by completely following the principles pertaining to the Grahastha ashram, and during his time as a sannyasi by following the principles of sannyas ashram. As long as one possesses a material body, Varnashram Dharma must be observed, but in such a way that it remains fully subordinate to bhakti. Varnashram Dharma is the foundation of Parodharma, or the supreme occupational duty. When a person's Parodharma is fully matured and he achieves his goal, he gradually acquires a mood of disregard for the means, that is, the regulations of Varnashram Dharma, by which he attained his goal. At the time of giving up one's body, the remaining regulations are completely left. The purport of the second half of the above mentioned verse quoted by Srila Ramanand Rai, Vishnu aradite pantha nanya tat tosha karanam, is that for worldly persons, Varnashram Dharma is the only way to lead one's life in a way that is favorable for Bhagavad Bhajan. There is no other method that is both favorable for Hari Bhajan and by which one can earn one's livelihood so easily. Therefore, it can be said that observing Varnashram Dharma is the only way a devotee can make a livelihood. Varna is not determined by birth, but rather by nature. Humans are generally divided into several categories: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Sankar means mixed caste, and Antyajya means outcast. Although Varnashram Dharma is not discernible in some countries, it exists there in the form of a bird. A person's nature will be reflected in his tendencies, vritti, and how he earns his living. To adopt others' tendencies and means of earning a livelihood is harmful. It may even cause huge obstacles to appear on the path of Hari Bhajan. But a question arises here. How can the one of a person be ascertained? How can his dharma, his means of earning a livelihood, and other such considerations be properly established as long as his varna has not been correctly determined? Nowadays, varna is generally decided according to birth, but such a method is not in compliance with the scriptures and is illogical. The proper method is to determine one's varna according to one's nature, swabhav. This method has been established by Srimad Bhagavatam 7.11.35 in clear words. Yasya yal lakshanam proktam pumso varnabhivyanjakam yad anyatrapi drishyet tat teneva vinirdishyet. It is to be understood that a person belongs to that varna for which his natural characteristics are symptomatic, even if he has taken birth in different varna. Srila Sridhar Swami comments on the above mentioned verse. Shamadibhir eva brahmanandi vyavaro mukhya na jati matraditi aha yasyati yad yadi anyatra varna antre api drishyet tad varna antaram teneva lakshanam nimittena eva varne vinirdishyet natu jatu nimitteneti arthaha. The characteristics of Brahmins, such as self-control, are the most important factor in determining their varna, not just birth. This is expressed in the above Srimad Bhagavatam verse, beginning with Yasya. If this conduct is found in a person of a different varna, he is to be designated a Brahmin on the basis of that characteristic. This type of eternal varnashram dharma should always be followed. It is generally useful and it is favorable for bhakti. Those in the four varnas and the Sankar varna, means person outside the four varnas, must endeavor to increase their sattvic nature. When good fortune arises for a person belonging to the classes outside Vedic culture, he will, as a result of his previous sukriti, follow the conduct befitting the Shudra varna, artisans and laborers, and develop the mode of goodness. Everyone should associate with sadhus and thus make bhakti the prime concern of life, transforming the modes of goodness that has been cultivated into the state of transcendence to the modes nirguna. This is only way to gradually progress in Sanatan Dharma. The presence of bhakti makes the people of all castes superior even to Brahmins. But in the absence of bhakti, even a Brahmin's life has no value. It is necessary for us to adopt the behavior of our previous Mahajans. But there is one matter worthy of special consideration. Among the many past and present Rishi and Maharishi preceptors, whose behavior should be followed? One Mahatma has said that the path of the Mahajan should be traversed after examining all of its aspects, both future and past. The conclusion is that it is appropriate to adopt the conduct of recent Mahajans after examining the previous and the other recent Mahajans. For example, before the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there were many Rishis and Maharishis Mahajans whose behavior was considered to be the behavior of the previous Mahajans. The behavior of the Mahatmas who have come since the appearance of Sriman Mahaprabhu is considered the behavior of the recent Mahajans. Therefore, it is the behavior of the recent Mahajans that is superior and worthy of being followed. The conduct of Sriman Mahaprabhu and the devotees who follow him, which they practice in order to instruct the living entities, should be thoroughly followed by all. The behavior and conduct of Grasthas. What is Sadhu Vrtti or proper behavior? The conduct of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his Bhaktas is the ideal example by which we can properly understand this. For this reason, their conduct is briefly described below. A. In relation to marriage and the maintenance of a family. A householder, along with his wife, is to practice Bhagavad Bhajan while performing whatever worldly duties are favorable for bhajan. Sons and daughters born in the course of following such worldly duties should be nourished and protected and accepted as Krishna's servants and maidservants. Because money is required for maintaining a family, it should be collected through suitable means that are lawful and in accordance with dharma. B. In relation to knowledge and education. It is necessary to be educated at an appropriate age, but the study of books or scriptures that are averse to Krishna should not be undertaken. The purpose of knowledge is to enter Krishna bhajan, not to acquire money or prestige. C. In relation to serving guests. Serving guests is the prime responsibility of householder, and thus are to be honored in accordance with one's capacity and without duplicity. Guests are of two types, ordinary guests and devotee guests. Being fully conversant with the difference between them, one should appropriately honor ordinary guests and affectionately serve devotee guests. D. In relation to virtuous qualities. Householders ought to behave with everyone in a simple manner and without duplicity. In this way, they should always perform Bhagavad Bhajan. The foremost duty of householders is to serve their Gurujan, superiors and spiritual masters, for by doing this, Bhagwan is satisfied. They are to receive instructions on Vairagya Dharma or the duties of a renunciate, but they must not adopt the dress of a renunciate and deceitfully act as if they are renounced. Renunciation must be genuine, not artificial. A householder is to maintain firm faith in bhakti and accept only those sense objects that are required to maintain his life according to his needs, while remaining unattached to them. Internally, it is necessary to endeavor to allow the immaculate current of bhakti to flow, while externally continuing to behave according to social customs. By doing so, one can attain the mercy of Bhagwan within a short time. It is necessary for all householders to possess the quality of being compassionate to others. Among all the type of compassion in this world, engaging the living entities in Krishna Bhakti is topmost. Householder will themselves engage in Krishna Bhakti and also endeavor to bring others to this path. The foremost way to bring others to this path is to instruct them to constantly chant Krishna Nam. Detrimental association, kusanga, should always be avoided. In the association of pure devotees, one is to hear and chant Bhagwan's names, forms, qualities and pastimes. But bhakti is spoiled by participating in the kirtan of non-devotees. By doing so, the bondage of material existence tightens even more. E. Grasthas are to be completely dependent upon the desire of Bhagwan. F. They should take special care to renounce the association of non-devotees, women, and those who are overly fond of women. G. Sadgrasthas or householders who properly and sincerely follow the path of bhakti are to chant 100,000 names, 1 lakh of Harinam every day. Pure Vaishnavas will honor prasad only at the house of such householders. H. Knowing the difference between pure Vaishnavas and Smartas, means Brahmins who rigidly adhere to the Smriti Shastras, which codify religious behavior. Householders are to serve the pure Vaishnavas affectionately. Although there is no external difference between the activities of a pure Vaishnava and Smartas, there is a gulf of difference in their inner faith. Hence, to consider them both in the same category will lead to degradation. It is necessary, therefore, for a householder to properly understand this and interact with them accordingly. The true dharma of householders. While speaking about the true duty of householders, Srimad Mahaprabhu said, Prabhu kahen, Krishna seva Vaishnav sevan, nirantar karo Krishna naam sankirtan. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 15.104. This means that the actual duty, dharma of householders is to maintain one's body by collecting whatever money is necessary through lawful means and, with the help of family members, serve Shri Krishna and the Vaishnavas and engage in the constant performance of Nam Sankirtan. Regarding the service of Vaishnavas, it should be known that non-duplicitous, Nishkapat Vaishnavas are of three types. 1. Uttam, advanced. 2. Madhyam, intermediary. And 3. Kanishta, neophyte. Service to these three types of Vaishnava is alone Vaishnava Seva. It is improper to invite a gathering of Vaishnavas. Whenever a Vaishnava comes, he should be affectionately served in an appropriate manner. If one assembles many Vaishnavas, the chances of making offences are greater. Bahut sannyasi jadi aise ek thai, samman kaurite nari aparad pai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 15.197. If many sannyasis come together in one place, all of them cannot be honored and offences will be committed. It is the duty of householder Vaishnav to be merciful towards the wretched and distressed, who are to never attempt suicide, whether out of anger or with the aim of attaining a virtuous goal. Suicide is an act in the mode of ignorance, and as long the quality of ignorance is dominant in a person, he is unqualified to receive the mercy of Bhagwan. In the realm of Krishna Bhajan, the consideration of junior and senior exists, but not caste and familial lineage. In worldly dharma, the qualification to perform certain activities is in accordance with one's varna, but there are no such distinctions in relation to Bhagavad Bhajan. नीच जाति नहीं कृष्णेर भजन अयोग्य, सतकुल विप्र नहीं भजनेर योग्य, जय भजो से बड़ो अभक्तहीन छार, कृष्ण भजन नाही जाति कुलादि विचार. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela 4.66-67. Birth in a low family is no disqualification for the execution of Krishna Bhajan, and birth in a family of Brahmins is no qualification for it. Anyone who performs bhajan is exalted, whereas one who does not is condemned and abominable. In the discharge of Krishna Bhajan, there is no consideration of the status of one's family lineage or socio-cultural background. Grahastha Vaishnava should be satisfied with whatever they have secured with little endeavor for their daily requirements. Sabha haite bhagyavant, shishak vyanjan, puna puna jaha prabhu karena grahan. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antya Khand 4.293. Most fortunate of all the preparations were the spinach and vegetables, because the Lord accepted them again and again. Knowing Krishna to be Sarveshwar, or the master of all, householder Vaishnavas are eagerly perform one-pointed Bhagavad Bhajan. Additionally, they must not disrespect the demigods worshipped by Smartas and other philosophical schools, Sampradayas. To act with compassion even at the cost of giving up self-interest is the duty of householders. Householder Vaishnava should faithfully serve Tulasi and chant Harinam while keeping Tulasi nearby. Householders who possess bhakti are praiseworthy, whereas householders who do not are unfortunate. When householders have worldly dealings, they do so while taking shelter of Krishna Nam. In this regard, the character of a Mahajan named Kalidas is exemplary. Mahabhagvat teho saral udar, Krishna Nam sankete chalai vevar, kautuke teho jadi pashak khelaya, Hare Krishna Kori pashak chalaya. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela 16.67. Kalidas, being a most exalted devotee, was simple and munificent. He would chant Krishna Nam in his normal dealings. As a joke, he would throw dice and exclaim, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No Vaishnav should earn unlawfully or spend wastefully. Those who are employed should not accept bribes. Householders are to accept a guru endowed with bhakti and idle character. Householders must always be careful to perform activities through which offences in service, seva aparad, will not arise. If one commits an aparad to a Vaishnav because of the influence of illusion, then one should fall at the feet of that Vaishnav and immediately beg for forgiveness. Otherwise, the result of that aparad will be terrible. The primary activity of householders is to serve devotees, for serving devotees increases one's bhakti. Bhakta pada dhuli or bhakta pada jal, bhakta bhukt avashesh, ए तीन साधनेर बल. Shri Chaitanya Chaitamrit, Ante Leela 16.60. The dust of the lotus feet of devotees, the water that washes their lotus feet, and their remnant prasad give immense strength to the sadhakas in their practice to bhakti. The duty of householders before becoming completely dedicated devotees. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11.20.27 and 28, Shri Krishna has spoken about how a householder devotee is to behave as long as he is not completely dedicated and his desire for sense gratification have not been thoroughly destroyed. Jat shadomat kathasu nirvinna sarva karmasu ved dukhatmag kaman parityagyo api anishvara tato bhajate mam priteha shraddhalu drid nishchaya dushmanascha tan kaman dukhordakar kamascha grihayan. A sadhak who has developed faith in narrations about me and who is disgusted with all kind of fruitive activity may still be unable to give up material enjoyment and the desire for such enjoyment. Knowing that such so-called pleasures are actually source of misery, he should condemn himself while attempting to enjoy them. Thereafter, in due course of time, he may be able to worship me with love, faith, and fixed determination. After developing faith, Shraddha, a householder is to accept initiation into Krishna mantra, because only the faithful are qualified to become devotees. They must possess the following 26 qualities: Kripalu, Akrit Doha Satya Sahara Samaha, Nirdosh Vadanya Mridu Suchir Akinchana, Sarvoparaka Shanta Krishnaika Sharana, Akamo Nirhi Sthira Vijite Sadguna, Mittbhuk Apramata Manad Amani, Gambhir Karuna Maitra Kavi Daksha Mauni. Shri Chaitanya Chaitamrit, Madhya Leela 22.78 and 80. Vaishnavas are merciful, not obstinate, completely truthful, non-biased, without fault, benevolent, even-tempered, clean, and possessionless. They work to bring about the auspiciousness of all and are peaceful, surrendered to Shri Krishna, without material desires, indifferent to material gain and steady. They have conquered the 6 material qualities: lust, anger, greed, etc. They eat only as much as they require, and they are sober, respectful, without false prestige, grave, compassionate, friendly, poetic, masterful, and silent. Householder Vaishnav should associate with sadhus, because Krishna Bhakti is manifested and nourished in such association. Although sadhan bhakti consists of 64 limbs, and one ought to follow those limbs according to one's capacity, an effort must be made to specifically follow 9-fold devotional service, Navda Bhakti, and 5-fold devotional service, Panchada Bhakti. Sadhu Sang Nam Kirtan Bhagavad Shravan, Mathura Vas Shri Murti Re Shraddhaya Sevan, Sakal Sadhan Shreshta Ei Panch Ang, Krishna Prem Janmay Ei Pancher Alpasang. Shri Chaitanya Chaitamrit, Madhya Leela 22.128 and 129. One is to associate with devotees, chant Harinam, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, reside in Mathura Mandal, and serve the deity with great faith. Of all the types of sadhan, these 5 limbs are best, for even slightly performing one of them awakens Krishna Prem. One is to gradually diminish his state of performing Vedi Bhakti and enter Raganuga Bhakti. After deep attachment to Bhagwan has manifested, many vidhis, rules go far away of their own accord. In that stage, there is no need to perform purificatory activities or any other such things. Although the mind of a person who has entered Ragamarg is never inclined to perform sinful acts, if by chance he does so due to the influence of ignorance, Bhagwan will mercifully purify him. Householders should endeavor for Gyan, that is related to Bhakti, or for Vairagya, that is caused by Bhakti, and not for any other Gyan or Vairagya. Gyan Vairagya Adi Bhaktir Kabu Nahi Ang, Ahimsa Yam Niyamadi Bhule Krishna Bhakta Sang. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 22.145. Gyan and Vairagya are not limbs of Bhakti. Non-violence, control of the mind and senses, the observance of certain regulations, and so on are intrinsically present in Krishna Bhaktas. Householder Vaishnavas must give up the 10 types of Namaprad and constantly chant Krishna Nam with faith. By this, one achieves Krishna Prem. Bhajaner Madhye Shreshta Navvida Bhakti, Krishna Prem Krishna Dite Dhare Mahashakti. तार मध्य सर्वश्रेष्ठ नाम संकीर्तन निरपराधे नाम लैले पाए प्रेम धन. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत अंत्य लीला 4.70 and 71. Among all forms of bhajan, the 9 limbs of bhakti are best, for they have the great power to bestow both Krishna Prem and Krishna. Among the 9 processes of bhakti, chanting Harinam is foremost. If one chants without committing any offences, one easily receives the treasure of pure love for Krishna. Householders should cultivate pure bhakti and not depend entirely on following the regulation of their individual dharma. Bhakti is not attained by remaining purely dependent on drinking milk or eating fruits. Rather, Bhakti Devi manifests by respectfully cultivating pure bhakti. Householders must not possess the conception of being Brahm, that is, the featureless aspect of the Absolute, or Bhagwan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for this conception is offensive. The living entity is the servant of Bhagwan, not Bhagwan himself. Householder Vaishnavas should follow the character of Mahaprabhu and his householder devotees. Whatever is done to achieve loving affection for Krishna, Krishna Priti, is topmost, and all activities performed to fulfill desires other than the desire to please Krishna will only strengthen material bondage. For devotees, remaining as householders or renouncing their home is one and the same. Rai Ramanand, Pundrik Vidyanidhi, Shivas Pandit, Shivanand Sen, Satyaraj Khan, and Shri Advaita Prabhu perfectly exemplified how to live as householders and follow the path of pure bhakti. The only difference between the householders and renunciants is how they maintain their life. If the Grahast ashram is favorable for one's bhajan, then it is inappropriate to renounce one's home. Adopting a mood of detachment, one should remain a householder. A householder devotee receives the eligibility to renounce his home when that home becomes unfavorable for Bhagavad Bhajan. At that time, whatever detachment, Vairagya arises is true detachment and is favorable for bhakti. With this consideration alone in mind, Shivas Pandit did not leave his home and Sarup Damodar accepted sannyas. We can see this consideration in the life of all devotees. Those who have left their homes with this consideration in mind have advanced in the realm of sadhan very quickly. Srimad Mahaprabhu instructed Raghunath Das Goswami on the behavior of renunciate Vaishnavas. These instructions must be followed by each and every renunciant Vaishnava. वैरागी कोरिबे सदा नाम संकीर्तन, माग्या खाया करे जीवन रक्षण. वैरागी हैया जेबे करे परोपेक्षा, कार्य सिद्धि नाही कृष्ण करेन उपेक्षा. वैरागी हैया करे जीवेर लालसा, परमार्थ जाय हार है रसेर वश. श्री चैतन्य चेतामृत अंत लीला 6.223 and 225. A renunciate sadhu ceaselessly chant Krishna Nam and maintain his life by begging alms. It is necessary for him to be independent, for without being independent, he cannot attain perfection in anything. Even Krishna neglects those who are dependent on others. One should protect oneself from becoming eager to taste palatable food, because through this, the sadhak is controlled by taste, which in turn destroy his bhajan. शाक पात्र फल मूले उदर भरन, जीवर लालसा जेई इति उति धाय, शिष्णोर्धर परायण कृष्ण नहीं पाए. श्री चैतन्य चैतामृत अंत लीला 6.226-227. One is to maintain one's body with vegetables, greens, fruits and roots, and always chant Krishna Nam. Those who neglect this run here and there in order to satisfy their tongue. Such persons, being devoted to the genitals and tongue, can never attain Krishna. ग्राम में कथा ना सुनिबे, ग्राम में वार्ता ना कहिबे, भालो ना खाइबे आर भालो ना परिबे. अमानी मानद हैया कृष्ण नाम सदा लबे, ब्रजे राधा कृष्ण सेवा मानस करिबे. श्री चैतन्य चेतामृत अंतलीला 6.236-237. Renounced Vaishnava should neither hear nor speak gossip, gram mein katha, nor should they eat palatable foods or wear fine clothes. Not expecting any respect for themselves, they should offer respect to others while constantly chanting the name of Bhagwan with prem and serving Radha Krishna within their mind. A sannyasi should never reside in the same village as his family members. It is strictly prohibited for them to see men and women who are attached to sense objects. They ought not to have any contact or conversations with women, even by mistake. Srimad Mahaprabhu gives instruction on this topic is as follows. Prabhu kahe, Viragi kare prakriti sambhashan, देखीते न पारो आमी ताहार वदन. दुर्वार इंद्रिया करे विषय ग्रहण, दारु प्रकृति हरे मुनेर अपि मन. क्षुद्र जीव सबे मरकट वैराग्य करिया, इंद्रिय चराए भूले प्रकृति संभाषिया. प्रभु कहे मोर वश नहीं मोर मन, प्रकृति संभाषी वैरागी ना करे दर्शन. श्री चैतन्य चैतामृत अंत लीला 2.117, 118, 120 and 124. आमी तो सन्यासी अपने रे विरक्त खोरी मानी, दर्श दूरे प्रकृति नाम जदि सुनी. तबाही विकार पाए मोर तनु मन, प्रकृति दर्शन स्थिर है कौन जन. श्री चैतन्य चैतामृत अंत लीला 5.35 and 36. The purport is that sadhus who have accepted renunciation should not converse or have any other type of dealings with women. The senses are very powerful and always want to enjoy sense objects one way or another. If the mind of great rishis and munis become restless by even looking at the form of a woman made of stone, wood or any other material, then what is the effect of actually associating with women intimately? There is no need to discuss this. Wearing the dress of a sadhu and adopting the renunciation of a monkey, Markat Vairagya, the extremely fallen living entity, being devoid of sadhan and bhajan, remains busy speaking with women in order to satisfy his senses. Who can keep his mind steady upon seeing a woman? Sannyasis are not to beg alms from the houses of persons engrossed in sense enjoyment, vishayis, for by doing so, the consciousness becomes contaminated and one can never perform bhajan of Shri Krishna with an impure consciousness. It is improper for a renounced Vaishnav to construct a mutt, meeting place, or any other such building, because by doing so, householder behavior will again arise within him. It is desirable for him to be absorbed in remembering Krishna while worshipping a Govardhan Shila, and so forth in a simple manner. Ek kunja jal, ar tulasi manjari, satvik seva ei, shuddh bhave kori, dui dike dui patra madhe komal manjari, ei mat asht manjari dibe shraddha kori. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ant Leela 6.296 and 297. For such worship, a jug of water and the soft blossom of the tulsi plant is needed. When performed with heart, this service is in the mode of goodness. The blossoms should have leaves on each side of the flower. In this way, you should offer 8 blossoms with faith. In special situations, devotees can accept sannyas in accordance with the regulation prescribed for Varnashram Dharma, Ved Sannyas. There is no rule that everyone must follow this system of accepting Ved Sannyas. At the time of retiring from household life, Vaishnavas born in a Brahmin family can accept Ved Sannyas according to their ashram, but not that portion that is unfavorable for bhakti. Vaishnav sannyasis must not accept the dress of Mayavadis and must always avoid bad association. They are not to use oil or any object used in luxurious living, and they should remain far from the singing and dancing of women. The singing of women and Mahaprabhu's idol. One day, Srimad Mahaprabhu was heading to Yameshwar garden in Puri. Some distance from the road, a local village girl was sweetly singing a beautiful verse from the divine poem Geet Govinda by Sri Jaidev, the renowned bard. The verse contained a charming and sweet description of Sri Krishna's form, and the girl's voice was like the singing of a cuckoo bird. Mahaprabhu became agitated in prema upon hearing that song, completely oblivious to whether it was sung by a man or woman. Intoxicated by transcendental bhavs, he anxiously ran to embrace the person who was pouring nectar into his ears. With great eagerness, he ran straight towards the source of the sound, paying no attention to the path. Thorny bushes cut his entire body till it bled, and thorn pierced his feet. But still he continued running. Seeing this, Govinda ran closely behind him. Before Mahaprabhu reached the Devadasi, Govinda caught hold of him and said, "Prabhu, it is a woman singing. Where are you going?" Upon hearing woman, Mahaprabhu came to external consciousness. He returned from that place, and in a voice trembling with gratitude, he said, "Govinda, today you have saved me. If I had touched that woman, even out of forgetfulness, my life here would certainly have left this body. I am eternally indebted to you for this favor." The conclusion is that renounced Vaishnavas should remain far from intimately associating with women. The eating and sleeping of a renounced Vaishnava. In the days of his concluding pastimes, Sri Mahaprabhu was absorbed day and night in the same mood of separation the distressed Viyogini Srimati Radhika was absorbed in, and when Sri Krishna went to Mathura. His renunciation reached its utmost pinnacle. He was oblivious to hunger and thirst, and day and night streams of tears would flow from his eyes. His body, which was softer than a flower, had become dry like a thorn. Devotees were greatly aggrieved to see his extremely emaciated body lying on dried banana leaves. But who could say anything to him? Jagdanand was one of the Mahaprabhu's premi bhaktas. He would feel great pain upon witnessing him perform such severe austerities. Finally, he bought a beautiful piece of cloth from the market and had it dyed saffron. He then had a comfortable mattress and pillow made with it. He stuffed them with cotton and gave them to Govinda, saying, "Brother, lay these out before Mahaprabhu." Govinda reluctantly did so. As soon as Mahaprabhu saw a mattress and pillow, he ordered Govinda to immediately throw them out. He angrily told Sarup Damodar, "All of you are determined to destroy my dharma. Jagdanand desire for me to enjoy sense objects, despite my being a sannyasi. Today a mattress and pillow are required, and tomorrow a bed will be required. The day after that, a masseur will be needed to rub my feet and massage me with oil. This does not befit a sannyasi. All a sannyasi needs is some simple food to maintain his body, and for sleeping, the earthen ground is sufficient. None of you should do anything to spoil my sannyas dharma." Everyone became silent. But Jagdanand was discontented. He consulted with Sarup Damodar, and the following day he gathered some dried banana leaves, which he tore into small pieces with his nails. He then stuffed them into a thin mattresses and into a pillowcase that had been made for Mahaprabhu's clothing. After many requests and prayers, Mahaprabhu agreed to use them. In this way, each and every activity of Mahaprabhu is exemplary for renunciate Vaishnavas. The necessity for both householders and renunciant to accept initiation into Krishna Nam and Krishna Mantra, and the necessity of accepting a Guru. Now the proper conduct, Sadhu Vrtti for Vaishnavas, whether householder or renunciant, is being explained. There is no religious duty in this Kali Yuga other than the chanting of Shri Krishna Mantra and Shri Krishna Nam. Hence, it is extremely necessary for all to accept initiation, Diksha into Shri Krishna Mantra. Krishna Mantra haite habe samsara mochan, Krishna Nam haite pabe Krishner charan. Naam bina kali kale nahi aar dharma, Sarva mantra sara naam ei shastra marma. Krishna name jai anand sindhu aswadan, Brahmanand tare aage katodgas sama. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 7.73, 74, 97. Sada naam laibe jatha labhete santosh, ei mat achar kare bhakti dharma posh. ज्ञान कर्म योग धर्मे नहीं कृष्णर वश, कृष्ण वश हेतु एक प्रेम भक्ति रस. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 17.30 and 75. This means that Krishna Mantra destroys material bondage, and through Krishna Nam, one attains the lotus feet of Shri Krishna. This Krishna Nam is the essence of all mantras. The bliss of attaining the impersonal Brahm is but a drop compared to the bliss attained upon accepting shelter of Krishna Nam. Therefore, being satisfied with whatever one gets to maintain one's life, one ought to constantly perform Kirtan of Krishna Nam. Following in this way, one must also propagate Bhakti Dharma. Shri Krishna cannot be controlled by Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga or other processes. He can only be controlled through Prema Bhakti. In regard to accepting a Guru, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 8.128, 221 and 229 mentions, Kiva Vipra Kiva Nyasi Shudra Kene Nai, Jai Krishna Tattva Veta Sei Guru Hai. Raganuga Marge Tare Bhaje Jai Jan, Sei Jan Paye Braje Brajendra Nandan. Siddh Deha Chinta Kare Tahai Sevan, Sakhi Bhav Paye Radha Krishner Charan. One who thoroughly knows Krishna Tattva and performs bhajan of Krishna through Raga Marg is alone a bona fide Guru, be that person a Brahmin, Sannyasi or Shudra. By performing bhajan under the guidance of such a bona fide Guru, one will very quickly attain service to Brajendra Nandan Shri Krishna in Braj. A sadhak who, at the time of sadhan, meditates upon and serves according to his Siddha Roop, that is, knowing himself to be a maid servant of Srimati Radhika, very quickly attains the service of Radha Krishna in the mood of a Sakhi. The necessity for grasthas and tyagis to give up bad association. The sadhak must always associate with a sadhu who is Swajatiya Ashya Snigdha, or one who is affectionately disposed toward him. of the same mood for which he aspires and more advanced. In his discussion with Rai Ramanand Prabhu, Shriman Mahaprabhu asked, Shre Madhe Kaun Shre Jeever Hai Sar? Of the many types of good fortune in this world, which is best? Rai Ramanand replied, Krishna Bhakta Sangha Bina Shre Nahi Aar. There is no good fortune other than the association of Krishna Bhaktas. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 8.251. No association other than the association of a devotee of Shri Krishna is beneficial. For association to qualify as Sangha, the following considerations are applicable. One is not to associate with a Vaishnava who has a faulty conception of Siddhanta, even if he is within one of the four Vaishnava Sampradayas. When Sriman Mahaprabhu spoke in Udupi with the then current Acharya of Madhvacharya Sampradaya, he said, Prabhu kahe, karmi gyani dui bhaktihin, tomar sampradaya dekhi sei dui chin. Sabe ek gun dekhi tomar sampradaya, satya vigra ishware karoh nischay. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 9.276-277. Both karmis and jnanis are bereft of bhakti, and I am observing these symptoms present in your sampradaya. Your sampradaya has one virtue. It accepts the deity form of Bhagwan. It is inappropriate to stay in a place where there is apparent rasabhas, means an appropriate combination of mellows, an opposition to the principles of bhakti. Bhakti Siddhanti Viruddha Ar Rasabhas Shunite na hai Prabhu Chitter Ulas. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 10.113. In other words, if any person desires to recite to Mahaprabhu a verse or song they had written, Sarup Damodar would first examine that composition and decide whether or not Mahaprabhu would be satisfied to hear it. This is because Mahaprabhu would become unhappy upon hearing anything that contained rasabhas or which was against the principle of bhakti. The necessity for both householders and renunciant to be compassionate to others and serve sadhus. One is to constantly endeavor to imbibe all the good qualities necessary to perform bhajan. The behavior of Vaishnavas have been described in Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 7.72. Mahanubhaver Chittere Swabhav ei hai, Pushpamaya Komal, Kathin Vajramay. The heart of a Vaishnava is soft like a flower and hard like a thunderbolt. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 8.39 has also described their compassion. Mahant Swabhav ei tarite pamar, Nij karje nahi tabu jaan tar ghar. It is the nature of Mahapurushas, great personalities, to visit the home of the fallen for the sake of delivering them. In doing this, they do not possess even the slightest tinge of selfishness. How a vow should be taken? Prabhu kahe, kaho tumi nahi kichu bhai, jogye haila koribo, ajogye haila nai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 11.4. After Sarvabhauma pleaded with the Lord to bestow mercy upon King Prataprudra, Mahaprabhu said, Do not be afraid. Speak. I will do it if it is possible, otherwise not. One should deal affectionately with Vaishnavas, for by this Krishna is satisfied. Prabhu kahe, Tumi Krishna Bhakta Pradhan, Tomake je priti kare sei bhagyavan. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 11.26. Mahaprabhu said, You are chief among the devotees of Krishna. One who is affectionate to you is most fortunate. The mood of strong determination of a devotee who is endowed with love attachment to the Lord has been described as follows. Kintu anuragi loker swabhav ekahai, ishta na paile nij pran se chadai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 12.31. Shri Nityam Prabhu said to Shriman Mahaprabhu, The nature of devotees endowed with loving attachment is such that they are willing to give up their body if they are unable to attain their worshipful object, giving instructions only after practicing them oneself and necessity of purity of heart, instructing others through good character. Tumi bhalo koriyacho, shikhaho annere, ei mat bhalo karma, seho jeno kare. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 12.117. Mahaprabhu said, "You have performed very good service. Teach the same to others, and through this they also will come to serve nicely." It is necessary to make earnest efforts in bhajan and sadhan. Jatan agre bina bhakti na janmay prime. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 24.171. Krishna Prem can never arise without making special efforts in bhajan sadhan. The association of logicians is to be completely given up. Tarakika Shrigal Sange Bhyo Bhyo Kori Se Mukhe Ebe Sada Kahi Krishna Hari. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 12.183. When by the mercy of Sriman Mahaprabhu, the heart of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was transformed and he became blissful due to Krishna Bhakti, he said, "I was howling like a jackal in the association of logicians. I was wasting my time in useless logic and argument. But now, with the same mouth, I am constantly chanting the names of Shri Krishna and Hari, feeling distress upon witnessing the distress of others. Jeever dukh dekhi mor hriday bidare, sarv jeevar pap prabhu deho mor shire. Jeever pap laiya moi karo narak bhog, sakal jeever prabhu guchao bhav rog." Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 15.162 and 163. Vasudev Dutt Thakur prayed to Sriman Mahaprabhu, "Prabhu, my heart breaks upon seeing the miseries of these living entities. I therefore pray that you give all their sins to me. I will suffer in hell on their behalf, and you please destroy their disease of material existence." The necessity of possessing a pure heart. Sahaj nirmal ei brahman hriday, Krishnar boshite ei jogge sthan hai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 15.274. Sriman Mahaprabhu said, "O Brahman, the heart of a Brahman is naturally pure. It is an appropriate place for Krishna to sit. It is necessary to give up the tendency to be irritated upon witnessing the advancement of others. Matsarje chandal keno iha voshila, param pavitra sthan apavitra kaila." Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 15.275. You have made the Chandala, means outcast of envy, sit in this place, which is suitable for Krishna. By doing so, this very pure place has become contaminated. The devotees form faith in Mahaprabhu. Prabhu lagi dharma karma, chhad bhakt gan, bhakt dharma hani Prabhu na hai sahan. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 16.148. Devotees give up all types dharma and karma for Mahaprabhu. Moreover, the Lord cannot tolerate any harm caused to the dharma of his devotees. It is of vital importance to completely give up faults. Se keno rakhibe tomar shesha vishay bhog, rog khandi sad vedya na rakhe shesha rog. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 20.91. Sriman Mahaprabhu said, "Sanatan, why have you kept this insignificant quilt when Krishna has made you renounce all sense objects? A qualified doctor treats a disease at the very root and does not allow even a trace of it to remain. Faith, surrender, and non-partisanship are essential. It is necessary to have faith in the principles of bhakti. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Sudhir Nishchay कृष्ण भक्ति कैले सर्व कर्म कृत है। श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत मध्य लीला 22.62. The meaning of the word Shraddha is to have the firm determination or firm faith that all obligatory activities, karma, are performed simply by performing Krishna Bhakti. The necessity of surrender, Sharanagati. शरण लैया करे कृष्ण आत्म समर्पण, कृष्ण तारे करे तद काल आत्म सम. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत मध्य लीला 22.102. When a person surrenders at the lotus feet of Shri Krishna by taking shelter at the lotus feet of Shri Guru, Krishna quickly accepts him as one of his own. The repentant amendment of wickedness. परमार्थ विचार गेलो कोरी मात्रवाद, कहाँ मुई पावो कहाँ कृष्णेर प्रसाद. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत मध्य लीला 25.43. My spiritual discernment, my faith in Bhagwan has been destroyed by unnecessary argument. How will I attain Krishna mercy now? Indifference to materially is always necessary. निरपेक्ष नहिले धर्म ना जाए रक्षण. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत अंत्य लीला 3.23. One cannot protect dharma without becoming indifferent. It is appropriate to be afraid of committing Vaishnava अपराध. महंतेर अपमान जय देशे ग्राम है, एक जनेर दोष सबे ग्राम उजड़े. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत अंत्य लीला 3.164. As a result of one person's offense alone, the country or place where Vaishnavas are offended is destroyed. It is imperative to forgive. भक्त स्वभाव आज्ञा दोष क्षमा करे. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत अंत्य लीला 3.213. It is the nature of devotees to forgive the faults of the ignorant. दीन दया करे ए साधु स्वभाव है. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत अंत्य लीला 3.237. It is the nature of sadhus to be merciful to the fallen. प्रभु बोले विप्र सबे दम्भ परिहारी, भज गिया कृष्ण सर्वभूते दया करी. श्री चैतन्य भागवत आदि खंड 13.182. Mahaprabhu said, O Brahmin, give up all kinds of pride and perform Krishna bhajan. It is essential to follow the principle oneself, preach to others and honor the Vaishnavas. It is the duty of every sadhaka to first practice bhakti himself and then preach it. आचार प्रचार नामे करहो दुई कार्ये, तुमी सर्वगुरु तुमी जगतेर आर्ये. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत अंत्य लीला 4.103. Sriman Mahaprabhu said, Haridas, you are practicing and preaching both. Therefore you are most exalted in this world and are spiritual master of the whole world. It is imperative to maintain moral conduct. तथापि भक्त स्वभाव मर्यादा रक्षण, मर्यादा पालन है साधुर भूषण. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत अंत्य लीला 4.130. Yet it is the nature of devotees to maintain proper religious and moral conduct, which is like an ornament for them. It is necessary to regard Vaishnavas as being situated on the transcendental platform. प्रभु कहे वैष्णव दे प्राकृत कबु नय, अप्राकृत दे भक्तेर चिद आनंदमय. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत अंत्य लीला 4.191. Sriman Mahaprabhu said, the body of a Vaishnav is never material. It is transcendental and full of spiritual bliss. The duty of everyone is to give up sense objects, prestige and gossip and serve Bhagwan. It is essential to conclude all of one's material activities and engage oneself in worship in solitude, Nirjan Bhajan. एक वत्स रूप गोसाई गौड़ विलंब हैला, कुटुम्बेर स्थिति अर्थ विभाग करी दिलो. गौड़ जे अर्थ छिलो ताहा आनिला, कुटुंब ब्राह्मण देवालय बाटी दिला. सबे मना कथा गोसाई करी निर्वाहन, निश्चिंत हय शीघ्र आइल वृंदावन. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Anta Leela 4.214 and 216. Before coming to Vrindavan, Sri Rupa Goswami distributed among his family members, the Brahmins and temples, all the wealth he had accumulated. After attending to and concluding these concerns, he quickly became free from anxiety and came to Vrindavan. It is necessary to abandon the desire for prestige. महानुभावेर এই सहज स्वभाव है, अपनार गुण नहीं अपनार कहे. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Anta Leela 5.78. The nature of Vaishnavas is that they do not praise themselves. It is necessary to not revere mundane literary composition. ग्राम में कबीर कवित्वा सुनिते है दुख, विदग्ध आत्मीय वाक्य सुनिते है सुख. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Anta Leela 5.107. Sarup Damodar said, Mahaprabhu feels pain upon hearing composition of poets who write about topics related to mundane men and women. But he feels joy upon hearing composition of devotee poets who are expert in Tattva Gyan, knowledge of spiritual truths, and are experienced in teaching in the line of pure devotee. It is prohibited to disobey one's guru, to be proud of one's knowledge, and to defeat others in debate. Disobeying the order of guru is the most frightening offense to the holy name, Nam Aparad. Guru upeksha kaile eche phal hai, krame ishwar paryant aparade the kai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Anta Leela 8.99. The result of disobeying guru is so fearsome that eventually it results in an offense to Bhagwan. It is proper to give up the desire for liberation and the pride of knowledge. Ramdas jadi pratham prabhuru milila, Ma Prabhu अधिक तार कृपा न करिला, अंतरे मुमुक्षते हो विद्या गर्भवान. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Anta Leela 13.109 and 110. Sriman Mahaprabhu did not bestow special mercy on Ramdas in their first meeting, because the indwelling Lord knew that Ramdas had a desire for liberation in his heart and was proud of his knowledge. Humility is extremely necessary. प्रेमेर स्वभाव जहाँ प्रेमेर संबंध, से माने कृष्ण मोर नाही प्रेम गंध. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Anta Leela 20.28. The nature of prema is such that the more it manifests in a person's heart, the more he thinks he does not possess even a cent of Krishna Bhakti. It is proper to give up the desire to be victorious in debate. दिग्विजय करिबो विद्यार कार्य नहीं, ईश्वर भजिले से विद्या सत्य कहे. श्री चैतन्य भागवत आदि खंड 13.173. Shriman Mahaprabhu said, knowledge is not for defeating others. Its purpose is to able to perform Krishna bhajan. Devotees should consider all jivas as their own, possesses firm faith in the path of bhakti, and desire auspiciousness even for their enemies. It is necessary to possess the conception that the one Bhagwan is the Lord of all, as well as to possess a mood of kingship toward all living entities. Shuno बाप सवारे एकै ईश्वर, नाम मात्र भेद करे हिंदुओ यवन, परमार्थ एक कहे कुरान पुराने, एक शुद्ध नित्य वस्तु अखंड अवव्य, परिपूर्ण हैया बोशेज सबार हृदय. श्री चैतन्य भागवत आदि खंड 16.76-78. Haridas Thakur said, Ishwar is one. The only difference between Hindus and Muslims is in name alone. According to the Quran and Puranic scriptures, Ishwar is one. Everyone acts according to the inspiration they receive from that pure, eternal, unlimited, and boundless being who resides in the heart of all in his complete Sarupa. Se Prabhur Nam Gun Sakala Jagate Balena Sakala Matra Nij Shastra Mate Jai Ishwar Se Puna Sabar Bhav Lay हिंसा करिले से तहार हिंसा है। श्री चैतन्य भागवत Adikhand 16.80-81. In this world, people glorify His name, qualities and other aspects according to the respective scriptures they follow, and Bhagwan accepts their moods. Any harm caused to others is therefore violence to Bhagwan. Determination is always required on the path of bhakti. खंड खंड है देह जाए जदि प्राण, तबु आमी वदने ना छड़ी हरि नाम। श्री चैतन्य भागवत Adikhand 16.94. Haridas Thakur said, "Even if my body is cut into pieces, or my life ere leaves, I will never abandon my chanting of the holy name." Vaishnav should possess compassion even for their enemies. "Ei sab jeever Krishna karoho prasad, मोर द्रोह नहु ये सबार अपराध." श्री चैतन्य भागवत Adikhand 16.113. Haridas Thakur prayed to Bhagwan, "O Krishna, please be merciful to these people. Please do not punish them as a consequence of their hostility towards me." One should give up pride, the desire for prestige, and caste consciousness in regard to Vaishnavas. Duplicity and the desire for prestige are symptoms of pride and should be given up. बड़ो लोक कोरी लोक जानू कमारे, अपनार प्राकृति धर्म कर्म करे, ऐ सकल दाम्बिके रे कृष्ण प्रीति नाय, अकैतव हैले से कृष्ण भक्ति पाए। श्री चैतन्य भागवत Adikhand 16.228 and 229. Those who desire to be known as great men in the world perform religious activities. Such proud persons never attain Krishna mercy. Only those who are without deceit attain Krishna bhakti. One should not consider a Vaishnav to belong to a particular caste. अधम कुलिते यदि विष्णु भक्ति है, तथापि से पूज्य सर्व शास्त्र कहे। उत्तम कुलिते जन्मी श्री कृष्ण ना भजे, कुले तार की करिबे नरकेते माजे। श्री चैतन्य भागवत Adikhand 16.238 and 239. All the scriptures proclaim that even if a devotee accepts birth in a lower caste, he is worshipful for the entire world. But if one born in a high caste does not perform Krishna bhajan, he is eligible for hell. His high birth cannot deliver him. It is important to perform loud sankirtan. जप करता हईते उच्च संकीर्तन करी, शत गुण अधिक से पूर्णाते धोरी। सुनो विप्र मन दिया इहार कारण, जपी अपनार सबे करिया पोषण। उच्च कोरी करिला गोविंद संकीर्तन, जंतु मात्र सुनिए पाए विमोचन। श्री चैतन्य भागवत Adikhand 16.284-286. Haridas Thakur said, "O Brahmin, one receives 100 times more benefit by performing kirtan loudly than by chanting within one's mind. A person who chants within his mind can deliver only himself, but by loudly performing kirtan, the name of Bhagwan enters into the ear of many living entities and deliver them too. One abandon a donkey-like understanding of the scriptures, as well as violence to others and offenses in service." It is necessary to understand the purpose of the scriptures rather than carrying them like a donkey. शास्त्रे न जाने मर्म अध्यापन करे, गर्भदेर प्राय जेनो शास्त्र बही मरे। श्री चैतन्य भागवत मध्य खंड 1.158. Sriman Mahaprabhu said, Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khand 1.240. No results can be attained by performing activities that are devoid of bhakti. Rather, such actions are simply violent acts against others. One is to abandon offenses made in service. Seva prad. सेवा विग्रहे प्रति अनादर जार, विष्णु स्थाने अपराध सर्वथा तहार। श्री चैतन्य भागवत मध्य खंड 5.121. One who possesses an attitude of disrespect toward those who embody devotional service, or the devotees, always make offenses at the lotus feet of Bhagwan. A person is eligible to be addressed as a Vaishnava if internally his faith remains firm and he is free of false ego. Even if a person extremely appears to be a materialistic, he is a devotee if he possesses the qualities of a Vaishnava within his heart. Vishay pray tar parichad sab, chinite na pare keho tiho jai Vaishnav, आशिया रहिले नवदीप गुड़ रूपे परम भोगेर प्राय सर्वलोक देखे. श्री चैतन्य भागवत मध्य खंड 7.22-38. In relation to Puntik Vidyanidhi, Shriman Mahaprabhu said, he is secretly residing in Navdeep. All his external dealings are just like that of a materialistic, and therefore no one can recognize him as a great Vaishnava. Those who did not receive the good fortune to associate with him see him as a materialist. One should give up the pride of knowledge. Ki koribe vidya dhan roop yash kule, ahankar badi sabe padai nirmule. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khand 9.234. The pride of knowledge, wealth, beauty, fame and high birth is useless if one does not perform Bhagavad Bhajan. To subscribe to a mix of philosophies, to be partial, to perform sinful activities, and to be blinded by intoxication of material life are all averse to the qualities of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava must always remain firmly fixed in following only one doctrine. One is not to try to satisfy the minds of the different types of people by speaking on many different doctrines in different places. Shane dante trinalai, shane jathi mare, o khad jathiya beta, na dekhi be more. Prabhu bole, ei beta jakhon jatha jai, sei mat katha kahi, tathay mishai, bhakti sthane uhar, hailo aparad, etek uhar hailo, darshan bad. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khand 10.185, 188, 192. In relation to Mukunda, Shriman Mahaprabhu said, he is a khad jathiya. Sometimes in an assembly of Vaishnavas, he put a straw, khad, between his teeth, thus indicating that he considered himself to be a fallen and destitute servant of Bhagwan. But when he visits an assembly of Mayavadis, he carries a stick, jathi, in his hand. That is, he proclaims Bhagwan, means me, to be formless, nirakar, without distinction, nirvishesh, and devoid of qualities, nirguna, and he criticizes me. In this way, he always seeks an easy situation. Hence, he cannot receive darshan of me, because he has committed an offense at the lotus feet of Bhakti Devi. One should not be partial to certain Vaishnavas. Je papishta eka Vaishnavre paksha hai, अन्य वैष्णव निंदे सही जाए शय. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khand 13.160. The destruction of a sinner who is partial towards one Vaishnava and criticizes another is inevitable. Committing sins after accepting initiation into Harinam is prohibited. Prabhu bole, Tora ar na kari se paap, Jagai madai bole, ar nare baap. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khand 13.225. Shriman Mahaprabhu told Jagai and Madai, whatever sins both of you have committed up till today are nullified. Commit no more sins. Jagai Madai replied, from now on we will not commit any sins. One is to remain beyond rules and provisions. Jato vidhi nished, sakali bhakti das, ihate jahar dukh, se jai nash. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khand 16.144. Rules and regulations are subservient to bhakti. He who is distressed by this is destroyed. Vishay mad and sabe ei marm na jane, सुत धन कुल मदे वैष्णव नाचीने. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khand 16.147. Those who are blinded by sense enjoyment cannot understand this mystery. Being intoxicated by their children, wealth and high birth, they are unable to recognize a Vaishnava. The various regulations and provisions mentioned in scriptures are subordinate to bhakti. The type of bhakti in which one maintains a regard for such rules and provisions is called Vaidhi Bhakti. By continuously following the principle of such Vaidhi Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti arises after some time. The regard for rules and regulation is no longer required in Raganuga Bhakti. Rather, the devotee situated in Raganuga Bhakti naturally performs service to Bhagwan, considering him to be his life and soul, Atmavat Seva. Therefore, such a devotee incurs no loss, even if he happens to disobey some of the rules and regulations prescribed for Vaidhi Bhakti. A person blinded by the intoxication of sense gratification and entrapped in the illusion of his relationship with his children, wife, family members and others is surely ruined, because he does not recognize such Vaishnavas and instead sees fault in them. One must reject the association of atheists and non-devotees. One should always be careful not to speak to atheists, Pashandis. Nagare hailo kiva Pashandi sambhasha, ei ba karane nahe preme prakash. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khand 17.19. Srimad Mahaprabhu said, "It appears that today I must have certainly spoken to an atheist, because Krishna Prem is not arising in my heart. One should not maintain any type of relationship with non-devotees. Chadi mor putra hai ba kinkar, Vaishnav aparadhi mui, na dekho gochar." Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khand 19.175. Advaita Acharya said, "Whether a person be my son or my servant, I will not see the face of one who commits offences at the lotus feet of Vaishnavas." The preeminence of devotion to Vishnu and the deceitful person imaginarily claim to be a manifestation of Vishnu. One should not compare bhakti to any or all other pious activities. Prabhu bole tap kori na karoho bal, Vishnu bhakti sarva shresht janoho keval. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Khand 23.54. Srimad Mahaprabhu said, "Do not endeavor to attain strength through austerity. Know thoroughly that Vishnu bhakti is topmost. Deceitful persons who make a show of dharma time and again preach by proclaiming themselves incarnations. One should remain careful of such cheaters. Madhya madhya matra kato papi gan giya, lok nasht kare apnare loiya, udar bharan lagi papisht sakale, Raghunath kori apnare keho bole." Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Adi Khand 14.82-83. Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur mentions, since the time Mahaprabhu bestowed his mercy upon the residents of Bhang province, Nam Sankirtan has become like their life air. But time and again, sinful persons visit there and preach a bad doctrine that ruins those simple-hearted people. With the selfish motive of acquiring wealth and prestige, some sinful persons cheat others by claiming themselves to be Ramachandra. One attains all perfection by taking shelter of Nam and leading a life free from sin and duplicity. Devotees must constantly take shelter of Harinam while living a life free of sin and duplicity. There is no dharma superior to this. अतएव कली जुगे नाम यज्ञसार, आर कोनो धर्म कैले नहीं है पार। रात्रि दिन नाम लय खाइते शुइते, तहार महिमा वेद नहीं पारे दीते। श्री चैतन्य भागवत आदि खंड 14.139-140. Therefore, in this age of Kali, the sacrifice Yajna of Shri Krishna Nam is the only means for the soul to attain benefit. One cannot become free from this ocean of material existence by accepting any dharma other than this. Therefore, even the Vedas cannot sing the glories of those who day and night perform kirtan of Krishna Nam while eating, sleeping and moving about. In this way, one is to perform Hari Bhajan while reflecting on the above mentioned natural qualities of sadhus and adopting their mode of conduct. In adopting any other path, one cannot attain as much that is favorable for pure bhakti as by adopting Sadhu Vrtti, proper conduct.